2008 Beijing Summer Olympics were a triumph for the Chinese Communist Party and a significant blow for human rights. And while the CCP aired lavish television spectacles for the world to see, they were evicting people from their homes, arresting activists, and harassing foreign journalists. Now, 12 years later, human rights abuses have only escalated in China. The CCP is currently oppressing anywhere from 1 to 3 million ethnic minorities in Xinjiang. These prison camps are described as oppressive, with harsh labor conditions, brainwashing, and even forced sterilizations and abortions. The Department of Defense tends to compare them to concentration camps. At the same time, the CCP continues to crack down on the people of Hong Kong for simply asking for the freedoms they were promised. And we should never forget the role the CCP played in the COVID-19 pandemic. In an attempt to hide the truth from the world and cover up their own culpability in allowing what could have been a regional epidemic, they allowed it to turn into a global pandemic. The CCP threatened and arrested doctors and journalists, destroyed lab samples who were simply just trying to report the truth. However, even with all this happening, Beijing is still set to host the 2022 Winter Olympics. Unfortunately, the International Olympic Committee has once again shown their lack of concern for the CCP's escalating human rights violations, whether it be the Uyghur Muslims, the Tibetan monks, or the Christian population. They are even refusing to discuss moving the games and have refused to use the upcoming games to simply put pressure on the CCP to stop their attacks on human rights. Just like they did in 2008, the CCP will try to use games, including American athletes, to whitewash their history and improve their image. But today, there's no structure to prepare our athletic delegations for this threat. That's why Chairman Engel and I introduced the American Values and Security in International Athletics Act. This bipartisan bill would direct the State Department to establish a briefing program on human rights violations and personal privacy concerns American athletes will face in countries that denigrate human rights like China. So when we send our American athletes to represent us in authoritarian countries that frequently abuse human rights, those athletes deserve to know exactly what is happening. Then they can make an informed decision about their own participation, particularly as we prepare for the 2022 games. And Mr. Speaker, this is the 40th anniversary of the United States boycott on the Moscow Olympics. At that time, in support of President Carter's boycott against the Soviet Union, famous sports journalist Howard Cosell said it seemed, quote, "It seemed absolutely wrong to me to let the Soviet Union use our athletes and our technology capabilities to broadcast their perverse propaganda to every corner of the globe." I agree with Howard Cosell. Mr. Speaker, we need to come again together to raise awareness for the next Winter Olympics in China. Silence is not an option, and this bipartisan bill is an important step to ensure the United States Olympians, many of whom are icons and adored by our children as role models, to make sure that they are educated about what they are competing when they go abroad to China. So with that, I urge my colleagues to support this bill, and I reserve the balance of my time.